Okay, so in this video, it's going to be a continuation of the last video, but we're going to get into CSS this time, and we're going to teach us the basics of CSS. So this was our, this is where we left off. Last time we had our web page up. So I'm just going to go back to our file, and I've gone ahead and created a index.css file. You can do the same on Sublime Text by saying Control N or Command N by typing that in and saving it, the extension, as .css. So it can be anything .css. I've saved it as index.css. So we have the styling of background orange. So I'm just going to erase that. And of course we have the orange background here. I'm just going to refresh. Since we erased it, this orange background should go away. So I'm going to bring this back with our CSS style sheet. So the first thing we want to do is include a relative link to our CSS page. So we have our link rel equals style sheet, and our type equals text slash CSS. And then our link, our actual href, equals index.css. See, index.css, and it is, of course, the self-closing tag. So now I'm going to save this, and our CSS page should be linked to our index.html page. Let's just test this out by giving the div a background of orange, just so we get the orange color back. So this syntax is, we have the selector, which is our element, our tag name. So we have the div tag name. This is our element. And we have brackets, and inside these brackets we have our property and our value. So let's refresh it, and the orange returns. So our CSS page is working fine. I don't really love the orange background on just this section, so let's try to actually make our full body orange. So I'm gonna take this body tag, and I'm going to give it the background of orange, which should give the whole body an orange body. So this looks a lot nicer in my opinion. And let's take out the styling from this image tag and give it some CSS style sheet styling. So let's give it a height of, let's say, 500 pixels, a width of 500 pixels, and let's give it a border radius, border radius makes the edges more circular. So 100 pixel radius will make it very circular. 10 pixel radius will make it less circular. So as you see now, this is more circular. Okay, so we're having a little bit of an issue here, where this does not appear to be 500 pixels by 500 pixels. I'm just going to go into our developer tools and see what the issue is. So we're going to go to our div tag and our image. So it's reading a height of 100 pixels and a width of 100 pixels. Let's try fixing that with the styling. I'm not sure why that is, but let's try fixing that with a importance. So exclamation mark important should erase the last styling. Should make this the most relevant styling for the width and the height of important. And as you see, that did work. Okay, I see the problem. So I had not went ahead and saved at the time. I had not went ahead and saved my. I had erased this, but I hadn't saved it. So I can go ahead and delete this important, and it should stay the same. Important is useful. That's exclamation mark important is useful when editing other people's code, and you have a 2,000 line code where you can't fix it easily. You can just use important to override any styles. So we have this BR tag, and if you remember, the BR prevents our image tag from appearing on the same line as the A tag. So I'm just gonna erase that for now. And as you see, the link appears on the same line as the image tag. So the way we're going to change that is by changing the A tag and the image tag to block level elements. So the way we do that is by changing it to display block. And now these are block level elements each. So if you see they took up the full width, you'll see they're highlighted, they take up the full width. So I'm just going to change the image tag and not make it a block level element. So it works the same, but if you go into here, you'll see the image tag is not block level. See? It's only taking up the width it needs. So what I did before, I did a comma img. That's how you include multiple elements in this to have these properties. So you can do h1, really just the element comma the other element. And in the same right, you can also make block level element a inline element by changing it to display inline. So let's see how that looks with h1 and h2. Display inline, or you could do display inline block. I'm not going to get into that too much in this video. So they become inline elements. They're on the same. They each don't take up the full width now. I'm just going to change that back and refresh it. So our website looks a lot nicer now. So I'm going to get into the last thing I want to get into is classes. So let's say I make the h1 white. Let's say I want to make the h1. Oh, actually, let's say I want to make the h1 the font white, and I also want to make this paragraph white, but I do not want to make the first paragraph white, the font style. So I could do h1 and p. This is the way we know so far. Font size. Oh, sorry, font. Sorry, it is color. Font size has to do with the font size, so you could do a font size of 16 pixels, and that would make a 16 pixel font size. See, now you see both paragraph tags have become white, but we only wanted the second paragraph to become white. And there is another way to do it by selecting by only selecting the second, but that's a really ugly way to do it, and it makes it very difficult to understand your code later. So really going the class way is the only way to do it is the best way to do it. So we create a class attribute. And this is the best, most readable way to do it. So I'm going to call this class white font or white text. And there cannot be a space between the class name, but there can be an underscore. Text. So now we have a class of white text. And the way you write classes in CSS is by writing dot and the class name. So we have the white text class, and we have the dot and white text. So let's say the class was named dogs. We would have dot dog, white text. There's also IDs, but the problem with IDs is you cannot use it for multiple elements. You can only use one ID for one element. ID is more for adding JavaScripts to specific elements or creating elements, but class is for is really usable for creating CSS properties. So I'm gonna give it a color of white, and I'm gonna save it. And as you see, this becomes white and this becomes white just as we want it. So that's it for now.